What is going on, everyone? What's going on, penny boys and gals? What's going on, stock traders? And welcome to our webinar on trading tools. This one in particular is going to be on Webull. I am Meta Matt, also known as What the Duck in the Discord. I'm live here with Pookie's Revenge. How we doing, Pookie?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good, good. So I'm excited to get into this one. This is a question. This is a topic that a lot of people have questions about.
Hmm.
When it comes to trading, because we talk about strategies a lot and psychology. But when it really comes down to it, none of that really works if you don't know how to buy and sell and how to do it,
Right.
properly in the most efficient manner and the most efficient way. So, I want to just get right into it. I know we have an hour here to talk about Webull. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of great things, hotkeys, drawing tools, and a whole bunch of other good tools and this thing's involved in Webull. But let's start with just a general layout. Just how like if you're a new trader getting involved in Webull or just getting involved to with this broker for the first time, what are some of the things that you think that you should know when it comes to the general layout of Webull?
Yeah, I mean, you got to know the lay of the land. If you're going to interface with the market and you're going to put all your life savings into one trade and have it go up or down, like most traders end up doing at some point, you got to know the tools at your disposal. So much like you wouldn't build a house without a blueprint or some sort of plan, you have to understand how Webull works. So I'm sharing my screen right here, and you can see this screen right here is just I have it full screen. You can make it smaller if you want, but I prefer just full screen because when I'm trading, I just want to focus on the screen itself and what I'm doing. So I've got a bunch going on here, okay? And on have these buttons, these icons, and this is kind of how you can navigate between tabs. So think of this like a web browser. This would be your tab bar. So this is how you open the different areas of Webull, okay? And you can customize these. We're not going to get into that specifically right now, but just understand this is like your main navigation. And up here, you've got a toolbar that you can expand. And this kind of has a lot of the controls in case you do accidentally lose something behind another window or something like that. So the way that Webull works is that it has a docking system. So if I click this right here, you can see that I have a series of tabs up here. And these are just little tabs, like options right here, related bonds, comments if I want to read about a bunch of gamblers, news, it filters out the stock. So these are just known as widgets. And widgets are just little tiny windows within the big window that allow you to do stuff or see stuff. Okay. So the way that Webull arranges this is if I click on profile here and I drag it around, you can see there's little blue outlines for where I can dock this. So if I want to click the right side here, I can move the profile here so that it's on the side. And then I can just readjust the size of this as much as I want. But you'll see this profile tab is now over here instead of here, where I'm just going to drag and drop it and it'll add it right back to the list here. So they're just little areas of the screen that you can kind of lay out in a grid pattern. And it's a very flexible grid that you can just kind of resize things by clicking and dragging this little border between them. Okay, so over here, I've got an order entry widget. I've got a note widget. I've got options, the top gainers and losers. I have a second note widget for no reason. Futures tab over here. You can put anything you want in any place you want in Webull. And that's the advantage is that it allows you to fully customize your interface so that you can trade the way that you want to trade. And you can make sure that what you have on your screen is customized for you. And that makes a world of difference because a lot of brokers just have one chart, one entry order form over here, your account P&L and your open positions, and then just a bunch of stuff that you don't care about, like news feeds and things like that. So, um, it's important to know how this system works before you start messing with the individual widgets. Does that make sense so far, Duck?
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Catching you off guard. I threw it. I threw it at you.
I'm just typing in the chat to see whoever's Discord names. I know we have some people who are here from the Penny Boys Discord as well. So just throw your Discord names in the chat so we know who is who. And for those of you who are new to Penny Boys in general, welcome.
Yeah, let us know you're here. I know a few of you guys that are here already. You guys are on a bunch of the streams, and I love seeing you guys. Um, and you also know that every now and then we like to bring it back to the fundamental stuff like this, so that we don't just build on misunderstandings because that leads to a lot of obstacles in the market. So now, if you want to look at the individual widgets here, the most important one for most people is going to be the chart. That's where we see the things go up and down. That's where we see the opportunities, right? So when you have the chart up, you're going to see, if I click on options, for example, you can see this little sub bar changes. It might be a little small on this screen because it's got a high resolution, but hopefully you guys can see that okay. If I click like related bonds or comments, these all have a different like subheader, if that makes sense. And then those are usually just toolbars within the actual window. So on the chart one, you've got these buttons here, and they all kind of do weird things. So if you're new to Webull, you don't have to memorize all of these. You can rewatch this webinar as many times as you want. You can pop in the Discord and ask us questions. I love talking about this stuff. Um, so the main one that you're going to want to probably look at if you're a new trader is going to be indicators, and that's just this little chart with an arrow. I really wish I could just zoom in on this, but the way that the screen works, I can't. So the indicators, if you notice this little middle group right here, it's going to change. So every time I click on one of these on the left, it's going to change this little group right here. So if I click the pencil icon, which is drawings, you can see that now we see a different set of icons right here. If I click the line style, you can see it changes these. And then if I click the grid, it's going to change those again. So each one of these, there's like layers of more and more control that you can put into your Webull interface. So if I want to add the RSI, which is the relative strength indicator, that tells you the strength of candle movement over a look back period. I can click the RSI button right here because it's on my short list, meaning that I've used it recently. So because it's up here, it's very easy to access. Now, if I want to add something like the Donchian channels, which I haven't used on this account in quite a while, I would have to click all indicators, and then I can look up the Donchian channels under all indicators. And it's alphabetical, so I would just scroll down to DC and click on this, and that would add it to the chart. And because Donchian channels are a main chart indicator, meaning they sit on the actual candles, it's going to appear right on the top of the candles instead of down here. The RSI is a subchart indicator, so it's going to appear down here. So in order to get rid of those, you just put your mouse over it and you'll see the visibility. So you can hide them or show them just by clicking the little eyeball. You can click the settings icon and you can go in and change all the visibility and the functionality of it. Or you can just click the little X to get rid of it. So I don't want to get into the specific indicators just yet, but I want to show how to add and remove them so that people who are watching maybe a bunch of YouTube videos chasing strategies can at least do that part. So um, so that's how you do that. You can also create scripts on Webull, but it is very limited, and that's for a more advanced class because that does involve a little bit more complex discussion. What I really think Duck wants to focus on here is the drawings because that's where we get to have fun, right? That's where we have our little art classes.
I know how much you love your drawings as well.
I
Speaking of
do.
the art
I do.
classes.
I do. I love drawings. So the subgroup here for the drawings are pretty easy once you kind of make some correlations here. The first drop down here is all single line. Okay. And for a line, you've got 2 points and then you've got some level of extension outward from that. So if you're just looking for a segment of a line, meaning that I click here and I drag and I click there, that is a line segment. Okay. I can draw that from this high up here to this low if I want, or from this high here up to this high. I can drag this wherever I want. You see these little blue nibs here, nibs, I guess they're called. You can just click and drag those to wherever you want. They will lock to the price as well if you have this little magnet enabled, which it should be enabled by default. And I can just click and drag these and they'll snap to the price, which is pretty useful for people that have maybe smaller screens or maybe they're not as dexterous. If you want to break out an expensive Wacom drawing tablet for your charts, you're more than welcome to do so, but it's not necessary. So the next drawing tool here is going to be the horizontal line, and that is just a line which is horizontal. So you just click anywhere on the chart after you click the horizontal line, and you can drag it up and down, and it just goes all along the x-axis forever. So if I zoom all the way out, if I go to the weekly chart, I zoom all the way out, it goes all the way back to 2008. So there's no limit for that. If I go to the vertical line, it's the same concept, but it goes up and down indefinitely, all the way up and all the way down to the depths of hell. Um, and then there's the extended line, which is similar to a line segment, but you can draw it at an angle. You can make it horizontal. You can make it vertical. It's just a line that goes any direction you want forever in both directions. Okay. So that's a very useful one for drawing trend lines because you can draw from high to high. Like if I go back here to the 5 minute, if I want to draw an extended line from here to here, for example, I can just connect the lows and it'll automatically extend out. And then future lows, I can look for retests and things like that. So it's very, very useful for drawing trend lines. And then the next one here is a ray, which is similar to an extended line, but it only extends in one direction. Okay. So it doesn't go in both directions forever. It just goes in one, like a laser pointer. Okay. So this whole menu here, and horizontal ray, I'm sorry, is just the same thing, but it just goes sideways. So if I want to put like a pivot level right here, but I don't care about what happens over here. I can use horizontal rays, right? Just to plot those higher lows. Um, so this whole drop down here is all just single line chunks. It's either a segment of a line, an extension of a line in one direction, or an extension in both directions, and it's either locked up or down or sideways. Okay. The next box is a lot more fun because the drawings are a lot more involved, right? So for the first drop down, it's always going to be one or two clicks. That's all you do. You don't draw, you don't manually move anything. You just click here, click there, and it's done. The second one here, you have a lot more functionality and they're more complex drawings. So these are more than single lines, okay? So the parallel lines, that allows you to draw a channel, basically. So if you draw a line like this with two clicks and then you drag it in a perpendicular fashion, you can then draw two parallel lines. So that's really, really good for establishing channels, okay? So if I want to do that right here, using this as an example, I can then draw a channel right there, and you can see now we're breaking and retesting that from above. Okay, so just a very simple, convenient drawing tool, especially for horizontal ranges, if you're someone who maybe doesn't want to line things up manually. Um, oops. And then for your second one here, this is my favorite. This is where I get to be creative and draw like snowmen and things like that. That's the polyline, and that just means that if you click and click and click and click and click and click and click, you can click as many times as you want, and it's just going to keep connecting those until you push the enter key, and then it will solidify that into one shape. And then you can just click and drag that shape wherever you want. I drew some sort of cinnamon roll or whatever this is. It's gone. But that's very useful for identifying like a trend uh, pattern. So if you just want to simplify what a trend looks like, for example, you can do that as well, just with that tool. And then you can kind of pull it over here and you can look at the ratios and do all kinds of crazy stuff if you want. But it's really good for demonstrating the highs and lows, which is kind of a really cool zigzag feature. Rectangle is my absolute favorite because prices are never absolute and they're never exact. So we know that my strategy that I teach, we use rectangles quite a bit, and that is just you click and then you drag and then you click again. I have mine set. Sorry, I'm moving a little too quick here. When you draw something, you'll have this little box pop up here, and this is kind of a tools slash customization pop up. So if I want to change the color of the box, I can change it to purple, I can change it to blue, I can change it to orange, yellow, green, purple again, but darker, whatever you want to do, just by changing that color drop down. And you can also change the line thickness as well as the style. Now, additionally, you also have a settings feature that you can open up. And this is where you can further refine the prices of that rectangle if you want, or whatever the drawing is. And now the rectangle tool has a middle line, which you can put at 50% if you're looking for things like retracements, or however you want to use these tools is up to you. But I have my extension direction here extended both ways, similar to a ray. I can have it just go off to one direction or the other, or none at all, and I just have the rectangle itself that I drew. But I personally prefer to have it extend both ways because of the way that I use it. So it's entirely up to you. Um, but it is important to know that you can customize those things. Pitchfork, for example, it's similar to the parallel lines in that you click three times and then you can expand the price range. So the way that we typically want to use this one, there's many different ways to use the pitchfork tool, but basically what we want to do in this case would be to draw like a fib extension tool, but in this case, the initial move is too steep, so it wouldn't be appropriate to use it here. But basically, it just allows you to extrapolate a trend, and then you can look for deviations within the continuation of that trend. So that's a much more advanced topic, so we're not going to get into all that. Trend channels are fun. This one, you just kind of click and drag, and it'll automatically draw the channel box. And then if you click and move this around, you can see that it kind of adapts the range of that drawing to where the price is. So you just kind of shuttle this up and down the price, and it'll kind of adjust the angle and the limits for you. So that's pretty cool. That's a very, very useful tool, especially if you're a new trader who doesn't really understand how to draw your trends. It kind of does a lot of the hard work for you. Date and price range. Oh, I'm sorry, data and price range. That's another one. I don't want to get too far down the road here on these more complex ones, but I do want to talk about long position, and short position is just the opposite of it. So if I click long position here, let's say that I wanted to use this red candle here as my entry, my breakout. I can then see a stop loss here and I can just click and drag that into place. And then I can have my take profit here and it will tell you what the ratio is as well as the price range for your targets and your stop loss. So that's a very, very useful tool um, when it comes to plotting out your trades. So that way you're not necessarily just having to jump in with real money and then figure out what a 5-to-1 ratio would look like because you can draw this tool and you can say, all right, well, here's my 5-to-1 ratio. Here, there's my stop loss, there's my entry, bam, bam, boom, done. Right. So we're letting the tools do a lot of the lifting for us. So that's the second drop down. The third one here is Fibonacci's, and this is a specific school of technical analysis. I don't want to get super far into it, but basically, when you have a big move, the idea is that the price should retrace, and then we can measure that retracement to determine the quality of the potential continuation. That's a lot of big words, and I'm really trying not to make this complicated, but basically, we use it as a measuring tool, and I'll leave it at that. So, um, and then you have text options and you can draw now, which is pretty cool. So I can actually just draw on the chart, which is, I love that. They finally put it in. I'm super happy about that. Um, and then just again, click again to stop drawing, and then you can just delete it. Um, but I personally like the text, and you can also add notes to a chart. This is a note, which is normally something that you could only do with a text tool. And if you click off of it, it hides it so it doesn't clutter up your chart, which is super useful. So you just put your mouse over it to see the note. So you can mark out key levels. You could say this is a weekly time frame pivot, for example, and it just helps you better document what you're seeing on a chart, and that is useful. And then beyond that, you've just got a couple preference items here. You've got the ability to stay in drawing mode. So if I click on horizontal line and I click once, I just get one line. But if I enable this and then I click on the horizontal line, I can just click all day long and no one can stop me, right? So that's pretty cool. And then you just uncheck that, and then you got one last one in the chamber that you fire off, and then you're done drawing. We already talked about the magnet, and we can also click this right here, this eyeball, and it will hide all the drawings. So again, if I just want to enable this and do a bunch of lines, draw a bunch of lines. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to make some missteps there. If I click this little eyeball right here, it'll hide them all. They don't go away, but they're hidden so that my chart isn't cluttered. So, and then of course this trash can here just deletes everything in the chart, which is really cool for just getting a fresh set of eyes on a new chart, especially after a big move. Um, so that covers the drawing tools. And I know that's one of your favorite areas. Duck, did you have any specific questions or anything?
Yeah, I got a couple actually. The first one,
Yeah.
just for like a beginner, like a brand new trader, or just someone brand new to Webull. What do you think the
Yeah.
first couple drawing tools or first few drawing tools that they should learn, should be just for
Uh,
general traders?
I love it. All right. So just for tools, right? We're going to want to deal with the horizontal line. That's everyone's favorite because we just like to plot pivots. It's just how we're programmed as humans, right? We want to see where the price turns around and we want to draw a line. We're compelled. We don't understand why we do it, but we do it, right? Um, so the horizontal line is going to be the biggest one, I think, for most traders. And then as you mature as a trader, you're going to want to convert those into boxes, those rectangles that I like, because we understand that prices are not fixed points in time. And if you're tired of getting stopped out over a 1 cent stop loss or 1 cent below your stop loss and then the price ripping, start treating these as ranges and allow for some variance and you'll have a better time. So I would say that if I had to choose, it would be the horizontal line and the rectangle, and that would be about it.
That's a good point you made there. Like, and I know a lot of people they see, advanced traders talking about Webull, and they see them doing certain things, and they want to go right to the advanced methods as opposed to, starting off small. Like with the horizontal lines, kind of like with skiing, you don't want to go right to the black
Mhm.
diamonds or the big jumps. My other
Both of you.
question for you, and this is more of a personal question, what do you think is the most underrated drawing tool that Webull has that a lot of people just don't talk
Mm.
about? 'Cause, everyone draws, the lines and all that kind of stuff.
That is
Like,
a That's a tough one. I hate it. I would probably say let me cheat here. Let me look. I mean, my brain immediately goes to pitchfork, right? Because we want to look for standard deviations, post impulse on continuations, but most people use fibs for that instead, and then they get it wrong because they're trying to use fibs to predict continuation rather than just measuring and then assessing the quality of the continuation. So for advanced traders, you're probably going to lean more heavily into pitchfork once you figure out the difference between those two. But for newer traders, I would say that the most underutilized tool has to be trend channel because this literally plots the trend for you, the channel anyway. And that helps you get your angles right. It helps you kind of identify the reasonable high and low of a channel over a given price range. And that it just makes analyzing a chart so much easier if you're new to assessing ranges.
Vanessa was in the chat. V Michelle was asking about the pitchforks. They were saying that I use fibs all the time, and now I need to know the difference between pitchfork, and fibs. They're also asking, is the pitchfork just extra noise? How is it not just extra noise? And also what's the difference, like the big difference between the two?
Yeah, so I mean that's like saying that the fib extension would be extra noise because if you have the fib, you already have its inverse in your head once you understand fibs, right? So you don't need the extension tool. It's just a way to help you draw something that you would otherwise just have to do a little subtraction problem, right? So the way that the pitchfork works is slightly different than the fib. So if I'll walk through the fib here really quick. So if I have, let's say I've got this impulse right here from bottom to top. If I draw the fib, it's going to give me a range that I can use to measure the strength of the pullback, the range that it pulls back. And the way that I explain this is if somebody's in a cabin up in a frozen wasteland and they decide to leave their cabin and go try to get help, they walk in a specific direction by a certain amount, ideally as far as they can. And then eventually they get cold, something happens, they decide to walk back, they have to retrace their footsteps. And that's what a retracement is. You're just walking back in the same direction you came from. And depending on how far back you're able to make it, maybe you don't need to go all the way back. I think rather than, well, never mind, I'm just going to ramble too much. Think of it like climbing a mountain. If you climb all the way back down the mountain, you're probably not going to go back up. So the way that fibs work is there's a healthy range, there's a shallow range, and there's a deep range. And that's just based on percentages of the total range. It's not a complicated um, formula. So whereas if I draw the pitchfork, I could draw from there to there, and then I can do this. And you see that this is a parallel line with a fixed set of extension lines out in that same angle. Does that make sense? So it's got the initial line of whatever line I'm trying to draw, which would be um, let me blow your brain here real quick. I'm going to combine this. Okay, I'm going to combine this with the trend channel. So if I want to assess this channel right here, okay, you see this middle line? That's the line that I'm going to use for my pitchfork, but I have to figure out how to draw it, right? So I have to go like here to here and then come down. And then you can see it's off kilter because I'm drawing it incorrectly. Okay. So instead, I can just copy this line right here and just pivot this pitchfork around. And then not only do I have the trend channel from the channel drawing itself, but now I have, oops, I erased the wrong one. But now I've got these sublines in here that can help me identify potential inner ranges within that same channel. So it allows us to further dissect a channel so that we're not just looking for one move, one pullback, one continuation, but instead we can trade the bounces within this channel and use things like zone recovery on a dynamic scale rather than just horizontally. And that's pretty complicated for that use, but that's why I'm saying for more advanced traders, you can do stuff like that with more dynamic market conditions rather than just looking at one flat level of structure. Because with zone recovery, we know that there's, let me just erase all these and I'll just start fresh. We know that there's a level here. There's the inside trades, and then there's the outside trade for the breakout, right? So we've only got a couple ways that we can trade this. If we want to trade inside the channel, right, we can take these entries right here off the bottom, and we can take these entries right here off the top and then trade up and down until the channel breaks. And then you get this little breakout opportunity here for the actual zone recovery. And that's how you kind of offset your drawdown. That's a much more complicated strategy. I really didn't want to go too complicated here, but hopefully you get the idea. There is a right tool for the job, and you are going to pick that based on what you're trying to achieve rather than what some YouTube tells you works all the time. So,
So before we move on to hotkeys, I just have one last question for you. This is also another personal question. When you just
oh
first
boy.
open a chart, what is the first tool that you usually go to just to use? The first thing you mark up.
Rectangle. Absolutely, rectangle tool. Because when I open a chart, I'm looking at this. My eyes are pulled back. I see the displacements. My strategy uses ranges. So my eyes automatically fixate on these ranges, and I just want to mark them out as soon as I see them. Bam, bam, boom, done.
Love it. And speaking
That's
of
it.
bing, bam, boom, done, and doing things quickly, that's what hotkeys are all about. We always talk about execution, being such an important thing, but being able to execute properly and also efficiently, and speedily, especially if you're day trading, is super, super important. And so when it comes to hotkeys, we want to just go through some of some of the ones that you personally like, and then some of them in general, or how do you want to go
Yeah,
about
yeah.
teaching the hotkeys?
Well, so first, trying to bring this back to a beginner-friendly webinar here. I want to walk through how to access hotkeys because that's what you need to do in order to use them. You need to set them up. So on Webull, on the desktop app, which is what I'm using, you have to click the settings icon, and that'll pop up this window here. Then you click on setting or click on hotkeys. We're already in settings. Then you click trade, and then you click this little blue link right here where it says hotkey settings, and that'll allow you to open up this much more complicated window, right? So I'm going to close that out, and I'll just show you what hotkeys I have first, and then I'll walk through how to set them up that way. Okay, so I think a little high level view might help. In order to access the hotkeys as a pop-up here, I need to hold one of the modifier keys. And the modifier keys is just one of the two keys that I have to use in order to use the hotkey itself. So in my case, I use Control. You have Control, Shift, and Alt. So I use Control for my entries and exits. So if I click on the main chart here, I don't know why it's not showing up. Did I do something wrong? What have you done to me, Duck? What? It's broken. Um, interesting. Let me restart my Webull real quick.
Oh, the hotkeys
Uh,
thing isn't showing up.
my Windows key isn't working either. I think
Uh-huh.
my computer's messed up. I blame Zoom. This is from a 1% rule discussion, by the way. We can just ignore that. I'm just waiting for my Webull to open back up.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Pookie's Revenge also has a coaching program inside of our Discord, which he teaches different strategies such as the 1% rule.
Yes. Yes. We like that one. That's nice. All right. Blah. I hate Webull. So it looks like it's not going to show my hotkey pop up, but I'll walk you through the hotkeys. So if I use one to enter and I use two to exit. Okay. So if, for example, I wanted to get into this trade right here, right above that line, and I'm cherry picking this example for a reason because it went up, I would hit Control 1 to get in, and that would place a specific order with a specific size, and then I would just get into the trade, right? And then I have the obligation to get out of my trade. So then I use the other two hotkeys, Control 2 and Control 3. One of them does a partial sell, meaning that it sells most of my shares, but not all of them. And then my Control 3 is my nuke button that I just use to get out of everything if I have to immediately. So that's a sell all button. And those are the only three that I really like to use, but you can also modify them. Like I have Control 6 set up, for example, that has a stop loss and take profit built in. So if I wanted to place my buy, I would hit Control 6, it would buy shares, and then it would also set a take profit up here and a stop loss there. So you can do a lot of different stuff with the hotkeys. So let's figure out, sorry, how specifically we can set them up. So you click the settings icon in the lower left, then you click hotkeys, then you click trade, then you click hotkey settings. I really wish they would make this more accessible. And then you can see the ones that you have built listed out here. And you can see I have control 1, 2, 9, 8, 5, 7, and 3. I don't use all those. I just have them set up so that we can see the potential of how they work. So in this case, I'm just going to open this up, and then you can see also if you have custom hotkeys set up here, you'll see the hotkey in the right here. It's very, very faint because it's a light gray on top of a dark gray. So you may not be able to see that. But before we get into the specific hotkeys, I want to show you guys that they're broken up into groups. So there's 4 groups, and the ones that you're going to see most of the time are just going to be stock. So if you don't see the other ones, or some of the ones that I'm going to walk through, you're going to have to collapse this group down so that you see the other like orders and positions, for example. Um, so let's set up that one first because that's the easy one. That's the nuke button. I just have that set up to control 3, and that's under orders and positions. It's just called close. And that is just a hotkey that I set up to execute a market order to close everything I have as far as whatever I have pulled up on the chart. So if I have 5 positions open, let's say I've got Tesla, Apple, Uber, Intel, IBM, and RXT for whatever reason, and I want to just close all my Tesla shares, I click on Tesla over here on the positions chart, and that'll pop up here on the main chart, and then I just hit Control 3, and it'll sell all my Tesla shares. Does that make sense? It's whatever
Yeah.
whatever stock you have active that it's going to apply this to. All right, so then we got to get into the stock hotkeys, right? So my favorite one is Control One, and that again is just a very simple hotkey. It's just a market order, and it uses 50% of my buying power, and that's it. So I just want to use half my portfolio. Just boop, I'm in. It's a small cash account, so I don't have to worry about like chain fills and liquidity issues. So I'm just using that to get in. I can also set this to a custom dollar amount. So every morning, for example, if I want to take 4 trades with 1/4 of my account and I don't want to deal with any Webull weirdness about percentages, I can just come in here and put a specific dollar amount in here, and that'll be the amount that gets executed when it fills. If I want to buy 10 shares every time I hit this button, I can just come over here and click this share icon and just type 10. So I'm going to leave it at percentages for now because that's what I personally prefer. And then when I hit done, after I set my hotkey, um, I can then see it on this list here. It'll say Control One, buy a customized stocks, quantity 50% or whatever the unit that I use. And then if I come over here, it's supposed to stay when I hold control, it's supposed to just keep that box up and it'll say Control One, buy 50% at market, and that's it. So let me open this back up and then we'll go into the slightly more complex hotkey that I like. So we've covered the market buy, market sell, get in, get out. Now we got to figure out how we can scale out of stuff and use partials. So for that, I'm going to use Control 2, which is just my personal preference. Um, I use Shift for my drawings and I use Control for my buy and sells. Okay. So for Control 2, I've got this set up. It's a little bit more complicated, but we can ignore most of this stuff. So for Control 2, I set it up as a limit type instead of a market because I want to care about the specific price at which it gets filled. And I have it set to sell 75% of whatever I happen to have left. So if I hit Control 2 twice, let's say I have 100 shares, the first sell will sell 75 shares, and then I'll have 25 remaining. And then when I hit the button again, it's going to sell 75% of the 25% remaining shares. So it'll sell like whatever 20, 18 shares, right? Then I'll have 7 left, and then 75% of that will get sold if I hit it again. So eventually you will run out of shares. And I have it set to last price. I prefer this over the bid or the ask because I know that an order just came through and it's likely to have another one right nearby. But it is a limit order, so there is always the risk of not getting filled at that price. So you have to be very careful about, which direction the price is going and how quickly it's doing that. So if there's a massive spike in price and it starts to pull back and you push that button, that order might sit there until the price comes back up and hits it. I don't use limit offset. I don't believe in them. I don't believe that the brokers are reliable enough to use them personally. And I'm not trading OTC super fast moving super trash. That's going to move 60,000% in a 5 minute window. So for this, for equities, even though I trade low float trash, I don't need the limit offset because I'm better off just missing the trade if it wants to go without me. TIF or time in force, that just means I can keep the order active for up to 90 days, or I can have it cancel at the end of the day. I always leave this on good till cancel or GTC. I don't see any need to have them on the expire at the end of the day unless you're dealing with options expirations. And that's, again, a much more complex topic. And extended hours is set to yes, but I never use it during extended hours and I don't trust them. I just manually create limit orders at that point. And if I wanted to, let's say I wanted to use my Control 1 to get in, since this is a market order, I can't set a bracket because the broker won't be able to determine that price because I get filled at whatever the market wants to give me. But if I use a limit order, then I can set a stop loss and take profit when I place those buys, like we talked about, and that makes it a lot easier to, have a target already set up when you get into the trades. So for example, right here, I've got a Control 8 hotkey set up that submits a limit order at last price for 50% of my buying power, and it sets a 6% take profit as soon as that happens. So it'll buy whatever number of shares it wants to, up to half my portfolio, and then it will set a 6% take profit from that limit price. So that's hotkeys in a nutshell. Obviously, we can really tweak the hell out of these. We can use a lot more complex orders. We talk about like trailing stops and things like that on the live streams. But that's pretty much it. I don't really want people getting too in the sauce on this stuff because what we have a tendency to do as traders is to try to make things very complicated. And with complexity comes sacrifice. And I think that just keeping things very simple is usually best. So I don't want to go super down the rabbit hole on hotkeys or drawings or anything like that. I think we have a good enough understanding of just how the layout works, how the drawings work, how the hotkeys work. That's enough to get anybody started. It's enough to hurt yourself, right? Now the goal is to focus on psychology and the actual strategy so that you don't hurt yourself unnecessarily.
What kind of mistakes do you think beginners usually make when it comes to just setting up hotkeys? So I know, people search hotkeys on YouTube and then they're like, all right, let me go right into it. Let me go crazy with this. So I'm just curious what you think about that.
Copying someone else. If you're using someone else's tools, it's like that gun from Judge Dredd. It's got to have your fingerprint to activate it. If you're using someone else's hotkeys and they're like, say you use mine, don't use mine. Don't trust me. Don't trust anybody. If I'm willing to commit up to 50% of my portfolio, it's because I'm confident in my ability to manage risk. It's not because I'm good at guessing. It's because I'm good at not living in denial. And a new trader who picks up that loaded gun and tries to use 50% of their portfolio for something that may shoot down 40%, that's going to end drastically different for them than it would for me. So use what works best for you and make sure that you have reasons for that. And I would say that copying is easily one of the biggest pitfalls that traders jump into. And the second one being just making things too complicated. We want control. That validates our identity. We want to make sure that we're sophisticated and productive and making things happen because we control the outcome. We don't. So just keep everything as simple as possible. Be lazy, but be accountable. Keep yourself responsible, and you'll have a much better time in the market. And if you can't, talk to someone. That's what we're here for.
So just Webull in general, we always talk about, the tools, finding the right tool for the job. Why would, or I guess the better question is, what would make Webull, appropriate tool for a certain trader versus, like a Robinhood or, one of the other
Robinhood.
platforms?
So there's a couple advantages that Webull offers that I mean, every broker has its pros and cons, but Webull I personally enjoy because it provides good access and good information, and it's just the right mix, in my opinion, for giving people enough information, but it doesn't overload them. Like Thinkorswim is a little bit clunky. It's a more sluggish interface. Webull's a lot more user friendly, but in terms of simplicity and being beginner friendly, Robinhood has the advantage there. The problem with Robinhood is they have so many delays in execution, and they don't give you enough information to make meaningful choices in a lot of cases. And I would say Webull easily takes the cake on customization. So if you're someone who wants as little as possible on the screen just so you can focus on execution and just get in and out and just be done with your day so your profits can compound, Webull allows you to do that a lot better than any other platform out there that I'm aware of, because you can literally just remove everything from this layout if you wanted to. I can create a custom layout by clicking this, and I can just say, all right, I'm here. I'm going to add a chart. That's it. And then I'm going to add I got to cover that up. I'm going to hit trade, and there's my order entry. And then I'm going to have a positions widget over here. And that's all I need to trade. I can see the positions I'm in. I can see the way that I can get in and out of them pretty easily. I've got my hotkeys set up here, and I've got my chart, and that's all I need. I don't need to be looking at comments. I don't need to be looking at news headlines. I don't need to be looking at the company's split history and stuff. If I'm day trading, I'm not really going to care about that. I will want to avoid things like halts, and I'll have to understand, the float and things like that. But it's not necessary to have everything on the screen all the time. And that's where people tend to go wrong, is they try to make things overly complex. I don't know if I answered your question,
No,
but
no, that was perfect.
okay.
Is there anything else? I know we're getting down to the last 15 minutes here. Anything else that you want to go over when it comes to Webull, especially, for new traders or just people getting, involved with Webull for the first time?
Yeah, yeah. Use the tools that it offers, right? There is a paper trading widget in Webull. It's 100% free. You start with like a realistic amount. Don't start with $1 million. Don't start with $600,000. Start with like 500 bucks. Just reset the account, trade it exactly how you would a real account. You can get all the experience as far as the shapes and colors go on a fake account and just get that practice and prove to yourself that you can collect data, right? And then if you can grow that amount, great. Consider scaling into reasonable size risk if you want. If not, just keep collecting data. There's no harm in just back testing strategies and testing strategies in real time. And that is something this chart does very well, or this platform does really well. The other piece of insight that I think that people tend to overlook is the ability to use watch lists. So every morning, for example, Lee and I put out our morning watch list, and then Bull puts out his options form for the large cap watch lists. But every morning we can plot out these ranges. We can pick, or every time we sit down. I shouldn't limit it to just day traders. But you can pick your favorite stocks and things that meet only your criteria. You can put them on a watch list. You can build your setups ahead of time. Like this one right here, we had a box drawn right here. It blasted all the way up to 66 cents pre-market or into market open. Obviously, I gave it back because it's garbage, but but the move was there. And if we were just focusing on a small handful of stocks because we have everything picked out ahead of time and we're responsible and methodical about stuff, we're not going to be chasing tickers at market up and oh, I got to look at this one. I got to look at this one. I got to look at this one because that's another huge pitfall that people fall into. And then they'll sit here and stare at charts for 6 hours a day and then wonder why they can't find good entries and all that good stuff. So use watch lists, pick your shots ahead of time, wait for price to come to an area of value that you can justify, wait for your confirmation, place your appropriate risk, place your risks using the appropriate order type, and that's something I teach in my coaching program. And then just push the button when you said you were going to push the button, and you'll have a much better time than 90% of other traders out there who fail.
Yeah, and when it comes to that 90%, I know a lot of the times we talk about three of the main perpetrators, three of the main pillars when it comes to trading. The first one, of course, being trading tools, which we went over. At least one of the trading tools that a lot of people use in their arsenal, being Webull and the different
Yeah.
tools involved in Webull itself. But of course, the other two pillars are strategy and psychology. So I just want to briefly talk about the strategy pillar and what you have going on in your coaching program, because I know you have a market equity day trading coaching program that is included with our premium membership. And then that's the only way to get into your coaching program is that premium membership. I know we have some other coaches who have some other types of coaching programs that are available as standalones, but yours is if, in order to get into it, you got to be in premium. So what is it exactly that you teach as far as strategy goes in that program? Since we talked about tools, let's bring it on to strategy.
Oh, I don't know. I just make it up. I'm just kidding. And this is the really cool part is I can tell you exactly what my strategy is. I tell it everybody all the time. There's no secret. I know the strategy works for me, and I encourage everyone to collect the data. But if you can't follow a very simple strategy, and it is very, very simple, it has nothing to do with the strategy, right? And that's where 90% of traders fail. It's not the strategies they try to use. It's not the back testing. It's the fact that they just can't push the button when they're supposed to hit the button consistently, and they're not applying it to quality opportunities and not understanding why they're doing the things they're doing. So my strategy is very simple. So I'll walk you through it right now because there's people here in this chat that can also confirm that it is working for them and they've collected the data and all that good stuff. So basically, it's just very simple shapes and colors. So I look for a small candle that leads to a big candle, right? Just like fair value gap traders, they only look at the big candle. And then they try to use that candle as prediction, right? So if I were to look at fair value gaps right here, for example, this one obviously goes a little bit deeper, so it wouldn't qualify. But most fair value gap traders believe that when the price comes back into the fair value gap and then price pushes out of the top of the fair value gap, they're going to get their big run and blah, 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 right? They usually seek a new high and all that good stuff. There's a bunch of different strategies about fair value gaps, but rather than focusing on the gap itself, I know what caused it, and what caused it was institutions. So I'm going to just draw a box right before it. And if it's a small enough range, I can use that zone as a retest instead, because I know that most of these fair value gap traders are probably going to get stopped out most of the time. So we're just looking at the range before those impulse candles in both directions. So like right here's another one because of this guy. It also happens to line up perfectly with this guy. And that's all I do in the form of prep. It's just a very simple process that identifies a two candle pattern that is a simple approach to shapes and colors, right? Then the other 90% of the battle is psychology and execution. And that's where we focus on in the coaching program, because we have to understand what the market is. And that's something that I redefine in my coaching program. And then we talk about what volume is, and that it's not some abnormal number of buyers versus sellers. It's always equal and opposite. We talk about what is and isn't visible in your order book and what every single one of these means and kind of how to interpret that data. And then the position strategy itself. So using the appropriate position size, we have a plan in place for that. We can use fixed allocations. So if we want to take 4 trades, for example, we can use a quarter of the portfolio on each trade, and we have a cutoff point. So that way, I'll show you that too. You're getting all the goodies today. So let me move this over here. I'll just zoom in really quick. We ensure that if we follow two simple rules, The worst case scenario is that we lose 0.5% overall for the day. And if we win all four trades, we have a 3% max profit for the day, but we stop trading after one loss. And that's the hardest part for most traders is just walking away after we take a loss. If I win, if I take seven trades and they all have different outcomes here, six of those are going to be a profit. And that's what compounds throughout the day or throughout time, right? So it's not enough to just get in and get out and to be right or be wrong. We have to have um, we want to be financially secure outside the market, obviously, have our investment side set up, passive growth, because that's where all these profits go into. Then we want to make sure that we've got a position sizing strategy in place because that is what determines our overall risk management. Then we have to have the actual technical strategy, which is the box strategy in this case. And it's just a very simple process of draw a box, wait for price to get retested, look for a very specific confirmation with volume. And we don't leave things open to guesses or hunches. We have very clear mechanical definitions for these because that's where people get screwed up too, is they just try to guess and fill in blanks, but we don't like blanks. Um, and then exiting appropriately based on what we said we were going to do. And then we have to choose whether or not we want to have one buy one sell, or if we want to scale out, have one buy many sells. And then the phase three, which is the more advanced stuff that we're getting into in lifetime, that's where you're going to have multiple buys, multiple sells, and you're rolling positions around their cost basis rather than just one buy, one sell. So there's layers to this education.
And that can all be found inside that premium membership. And for those who either want to do options or or maybe swing trading, we do have coaches for that, and as well we have Mad Maverick who teaches a swing trading strategy, and Swinging Bull who teaches an option strategy focused more on options income strategies like the wheel and spreads, and other good things like that. And those are also both included with that premium membership alongside Pookie's Revenge. And those that's a big thing is the strategy. It's not just just teaching one strategy. We have multiple different strategies because everyone is different, and some people patience is a strong suit, so swing trading might work better for them. Or some people just need that the constant movement of day trading. Are you ready to say something, Pookie?
No, I was just agreeing. I was
Uh,
huffing and puffing. I was agreeing.
and so it's great. It's great that we have having now we just recently added you to the premium lineup. So I'm very excited about that. Having all those different options, or equity. When it comes to the different strategies that we teach. But psychology, is the third pillar we just talked about. We have trading tools like Webull, different brokers and stuff that we teach in the our educational courses. But there's also the strategy, which we teach in the coaching program, and of course, there's also psychology. A lot of people have the strategy down; they might understand the hotkeys, but they don't have the psychology down. So when the market opens, everything that they learned, starts to go out the door and the emotions take over. It's just why somebody might know, exactly how to trade, exactly how to follow a strategy. They could do it perfectly on paper, perfectly when there's no emotions involved. But then, as soon as the market opens, and the news starts coming in, and the tweets start coming out, and that they turn to a completely different trader. So I just want to ask you about the importance of psychology. When it comes to your strategy in particular, but also just trading in general. Because I know a lot of people see webinars like this talking about Webull. This is how you use hotkeys. This is how you drawing tools. And they want to go right into it, guns
Yep.
blazing. So I just want to discuss that portion of trading with you.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's where the demand is, right? People want the shapes and colors, they want the flashy profits, they want the action parts, but they don't want to necessarily sit through the rest, right? And the it's kind of a backwards approach because psychology is what makes somebody a successful trader. I teach my strategy specifically. I teach it for day trades, I teach it for market open, but it also applies to swing trades, every other type of trading. You saw me flip $50 into $3,000 on Kalshi over a weekend, right? You saw me do the futures account. It's insane. I abused the hell out of that account, but once you understand the core concepts and you understand yourself, you can trade anything. You can make money pretty much anywhere. You can make more cigarettes than anyone else in the prison if you have the right system and the right psychology and protection. But that's what it all boils down to. Because if you don't read the manual, you're not going to understand how your brain works and why you respond to certain things a certain way. And you're also not going to respond how to reframe things in a healthy way. And you're probably just going to get stuck in these cycles that everybody tends to get stuck in by default. And that's what the market exploits. It's designed that way for a reason, knowing that the masses aren't going to break out of those cycles. It's default psychology. So once you read the manual, though, you can understand that like simple things like the part of your brain that is responsible for making comparisons is blind to your visual cortex. And instead, it feeds that data through this library of references that you've had. And a lot of times that's traumatic losses for most new traders. And that skews the perception of what you're seeing, which skews your reaction to it. And then we start to anticipate and we get anxiety and stress comes into the mix. And then this expectation that we had for how it was supposed to work doesn't match up with what's actually happening. And then we run into this little fight or flight situation, and then we're all over the place and it's messy. So, risk perception and identity are core concepts in what we do. And if you don't spend the time to focus on listening to that voice inside yourself that says, I feel this way because of this, you're not going to have a good time in the market because the market is just going to be screaming at you. And if it's you and let's say a SPY 0 day in that room, and you don't, one of you two is walking out of there, and it's probably not going to be you. So you got to have psychology. You have to be able to not live in denial when you're confronted with that missed expectation, no matter what it is. That's what makes a successful trader is just the ability to not live in denial. That's what I focus on.
I love that. And also included in the premium membership is the Mind Over Markets program, which goes over strictly just the psychology. It's, we have a bunch of courses in there, just going over how to rewire the brain, kind of give you that kind of like we call it like a brain DLC or brain update, like you get with an iPhone update for trading, because we were built to survive, not built to trade. And we also have a bunch of other different courses in there as well. But let's get to the giveaway portion of today's stream. We did say that we're going to be giving away a merch item. I see is that the Penny Boys hat that you're wearing? That's actually it.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
We're giving away
Yep.
that exact hat. No, I'm just kidding. But we are giving away a hat, and so it might look like that one, but we're not going to be taking it off of Pookie's head. And so it's going to be going to a random listener we chose earlier in the stream. So congratulations to Kai Perez. I'm going to put that in the chat
Mm.
as well. Once again, congratulations to Kai Perez. You've won a Penny Boys hat. It looks just like the one that Pookie's has. We have different colors as well. So in order to gain access to, or in order to not gain access, in order to get, claim your prize, all you gotta do is just go into our Discord and create a support ticket. And Nikki, who posted right there in the chat as well, will help get that shipped over to you. Is there anything else, Pookie, that you want to go over when it comes to maybe not even Webull, just premium in general? What we offer at Penny Boys, or just anything trading related.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so we exist for a reason. We've persevered over the last 5 years. A lot of our competitors and a lot of the other communities out there have just completely washed away. The ones that are left are primarily relying on FOMO. They want to put profit porn in front of people. They want to put flashy results and Lambos all over social media, and they want to get people in there. So you buy expensive courses. And then those courses tend to be empty. We shop around, we do our research, we make sure that we're not missing opportunities to help people learn things in more effective ways. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of those guys are just trying to rip you off, and I don't want anyone to take that with any level of authority. Just do your own shopping around if you want to. But I will say that we are the only community that I'm aware of that encourages scrutiny. I don't want you to trust what I say at face value. I want you to collect data for yourself. And I show proof. You guys have watched me grow the small account from, was it 38 bucks? It's up to like 760 or something now. I mean, with contributions, of course, but it shows the effect of compounding gains. And more importantly, the students here are also sharing their profits, and that's the best possible proof. So a lot of questions that we get when people join the server are they're not as skeptical as they used to be, which kind of concerns me because that means that a lot of discords out there and a lot of other communities are probably exploiting the other people like that. But what a lot of questions are is, where do I learn? Where do I get started? Where do I speed things up? Where do I get the better results? And 90% of that is just going to be showing up to live streams, being on a call with us where you can ask questions and get answers in real time. That is another unique feature. A lot of Discords out there have live streams. They go for 6-8 hours a day, and that's great. But those people tend to not pay attention to chats. They don't really focus on the members and the questions and the specific obstacles. So what we do, or what I specifically do, is I don't ask you about your last big win. I ask you what your biggest obstacle is because I want to make sure that you're aware of it first off, and that you have specifics so that you can work around it, not just, oh, try to do better or you should do this instead of that. I hate leaving gaps in education, and I hate leaving gaps in, like the next steps for helping somebody improve their trading. So if you're in premium, you get access to my coaching program. We're starting from the ground up. We literally start with what the exchange is, which is something a lot of people don't fully understand, and that leads to things like saying the market makers are rigging things, and there's all this weird conspiracy stuff, which does exist to an extent as far as manipulation outside the trades go. But when it comes to the actual market mechanics, like the order book and the time and sales, that is just usually just misunderstood. So we focus on that. We focus on what causes volume to move and how the mechanics of the market actually result in that movement so that we can get better insight into what we're seeing when the price actually moves. And that allows us to have a huge advantage over everything else. And then in addition to just my coaching stuff, like I teach my strategy and then we build people up into lifetime. But you also have Mad Maverick. He's awesome. He teaches the due diligence, the fundamental analysis portion of it as well. So if you're not looking for just day trades, he's there. So we cover the other half of equity trading. And then we also have Bull, which is perfect for people that either have a little bit of money and they want to grow it, or they're just interested in options but don't want to trade naked options because most traders that trade naked options burn themselves. We've all done it. It sucks. There is a better way. Um, and you're also just going to need somewhere to stash the profits from the other stuff, and passive options and long-term like dividend income. Those are all great pools to just dump extra profits into so that you can let them grow without having to work for your money twice, or I guess three times. So there's a huge advantage, plus the education, plus all the other alerts. I mean, there's so many other like things that are in premium, but most of it is just the ability to get closest access to us on live streams and to have those dedicated smaller groups that you can work with each other and really improve your trading peer to peer rather than just some analyst sitting in an ivory tower throwing signals at you. I hate that.
Yeah, and yeah, especially now with the AI and all that, there's gonna be a lot of different information out there. Information is not gonna be scarce, so being able to determine which one is worth listening to, and actually has the ability to back it up. Which we've been doing this for a long time now.
I want to see
When
their
it comes to
losses.
educating, yeah,
Show me your losses. They don't
but yeah,
they don't put them on social media. I don't know why.
never
I
do.
do.
I just posted a code in the chat. It's new 50. There's also a link in there. So if you use the code new 50, if you're brand new to us, you haven't tried premium in the past, that'll give you 50% off of your first month for your membership. So you can, give us a try, see what we're all about, get access to all three of those different coaches, get access to our live trading. For premium members, we have it every single day, Monday through Friday. We have both options day trading as well as equity day trading. When it comes to the live trading, we have a whole bunch of different educational courses, as well as, of course, the coaching programs and alerts. We have the alerts as well. For those who can't make the actual live streams, we have the text alerts as well that are included with premium. So, I know that everyone has different schedules and different ways to learn. So, we have a little bit of something for everyone when it comes to that premium. And new 50 is the code to get 50% off your first month of premium. And I just mentioned AI just a little bit ago. We actually have coming up here in around like 5 minutes once this webinar ends in the Discord. It's going to be in the free live stream chat, which we have a whole bunch of free live streams throughout the week. This is one of them. We're going to be going over all things alternative finance. That is the theme of the stream. So what that means is just all things when it comes to the future of finance, the future of tech, and just emerging trends. We've talked about prediction markets during those streams. We've talked a lot about AI, the different AI agents coming out with Claude Cowork and Claudebot and all that kind of stuff. Now we're talking about Perplexity Computer today. That's a new one that just came out recently. It's just about getting everyone, in the Discord, just in the know. There's a lot of stuff out there, on social media, just a lot of noise. And it's easy to try, to want to ignore it. But there's also some good stuff out there, like Claude Cowork, and just some of these things that we've introduced, like RWAs, tokenization, just all things emerging tech and emerging finance. We had some members actually recently use some of the AI that we talked about to create trading journals and just different ways to track their trades, which they said has helped them immensely. So it's all about just finding just another way to get that edge in the market and just in life in general. That's gonna be right after this stream. We're gonna be doing some crypto giveaways on that. And once again, congratulations to Kai Perez who won our giveaway today. Anything else you want to talk about, Pookie, before we close this one out?
Yeah, actually, so there were there were two links and Kai's announcement in the chat. It looks like they weren't sent to the attendees. So I'm going to put that link for everyone to join premium here in the chat so that the attendees can see it as well. Well, if I can. I cannot for some reason. Okay. Anyway, just go to pbalerts.com. You'll be able to find premium right there. And if you do sign up, right, I'm going to make a one-time thing here. If you do sign up and you join my coaching program, which is included in premium, you get access to all three. Let me know in the chat because I want to use you as a case study. So the first person to join premium from this stream, and again, you get half off. Um, I'm just curious, but I want to use you as a case study because I'm looking for someone specifically to kind of highlight a growth journey on so that we can just, again, further provide more and more transparent proof that we take someone who's maybe struggling or maybe new to the market and we just build them up into a professional manager of risk that has compounding profits. So that's my goal. So if you join, let me know and we'll get you started on that by the end of today, if possible.
I
So that's
love
my
that.
commitment. Yeah, let's do it.
Pookies always goes above and beyond. Speaking of which, he has a extra session at Traders Paradise. We have our annual event coming up here in June. It's going to be
Mm.
in Nashville, Tennessee, and Pookie will be able to get some not one-on-ones, but some small group sessions, some small group time with Pookie's Revenge there, as well as a whole bunch of education, live trading. I'm excited. Once again, it's June 7th through 11th. You can ask about that in the Discord. We have a whole bunch of information in the Discord about that. But it's going to be in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to be doing a lot of good eating, a lot of good
Oh
educating, a lot
boy.
of good live trading. This year's gonna be a little bit different as far as the food goes. And the last couple ones were in your traditional areas. The food is traditional, but this is Nashville, so we made sure to find a hotel where the conference food is Nashville food. Is your comfort food, if you will. So I'm very excited for that event. That's gonna be June 7th through 11th in Nashville. A whole bunch of live trading, small group sessions with our coaches and analysts. You can get that like over the shoulder help that you just really can't get, in webinars like this or in the Discord streams. The whole goal of that in-person event is just to give you that that extra step and that extra
It's different in the room.
literal hand since we can see you in person. Yeah, it definitely is different.
Yeah.
That the vibe and the atmosphere. And just being in the Discord, it's fun just to see everyone. We have fun. We we put our trader hat on in the morning. We and our student hat on in the morning. We do a lot of education, live trading, and good stuff like that. But then once the market closes and the conference
Hmm.
room doors close, we have a good time. We definitely know how to host some fun social events as well as just the conference. So definitely swing through and go in the Discord, open the support ticket to ask more about that.
Yeah.
Um,
It never hurts to have the conversation, right? It doesn't cost you anything to set up a call with Nikki just to see what we're offering. And then, if anything can be worked with, if you're someone that maybe doesn't have a bunch of cash, and then we've got that whole time to make that cash. That's the goal. That's kind of why we're here. It's to help everybody find success. So if the immediate concern about wanting to go to Nashville, but maybe not being able to afford it is money, then you're in the right place to fix that. So take that however you want.
I just realized, Pookie, this is my first time doing a Zoom call. We do a whole bunch of different streams in the Discord. We do a bunch of Discord streams, live trading for both free and premium members. This we just recently started doing a bunch of these Zoom calls. Expect to have more of these webinars going forward. We had a one recently with Swing Bull. He's our options income coach. He was going over some new options income strategy. So just keep an eye out for more webinars. But this is my first one, Poogie. I have no idea how to end it.
Oh, Nikki's the host. We're good.
Okay.
No,
I was like
Nikki's
looking
just the
around. I'm like on the screen. I'm like, I can do my outro, but I also just don't know what to do after that.
no. It's I mean I can stop my screen share and stuff, but Nikki's a gracious host. She's in control of all that. She controls us. She's trafficking us. Please help.
Well, for anyone who might have missed any parts of this, I know people are busy during every hour of the day. Honestly, I think everyone's busy. It's just it's this is just 2026.
Hmm.
We do have the recording for those of you who registered, so you can check that
Yeah.
out. It'll be sent to your email the same way that the link to this got sent out. And that way you can catch up. And if you have any questions, feel free to go into the Discord. You don't have to be paying anything. You can ask questions. We have a free
Yeah.
chat in there. We have a bunch of free live streams. We don't token gate, or we don't make you pay. We don't paywall. The basic education and answering questions and stuff like that. We're a very open Discord, so I hope to see you guys all in there.
Yeah, let me, I do have two more
Yeah.
small points that I want to make. So first off, if, again, because, we are offering a paid service as well, but there's no requirement, there's no pressure. But if you want to participate in those paid services, I really encourage everyone to ask yourself, how likely are you to lose that same amount of money in the next month in the market, right? We're offering a 50% discount on premium. That brings it down pretty nicely. But if you, even if that's too high, we do offer the coaching programs for even less. So if you're regularly losing that much money in the market and you want to change that, it's at least worth investing, in my opinion, into something that will get you a better value than just trying what you've been doing. And the other item here is I'm personally curious because I like collecting feedback, and I think that because this is our first webinar, I'm just curious to see how people feel about it. So if everybody who's here feels comfortable, if you could just rate this one, 1 to 5, one being that it wasn't very useful or you didn't really learn anything, five being that it was helpful and you learned stuff that you can use. If everyone just wants to throw a number in the chat just to help us kind of assess what we can maybe do better, or if this was good, I would appreciate it. And then we'll probably wrap this up and we'll definitely do these again because I love helping people. Oh no, kids are screaming. Oof, I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah. I got ours. One of ours is home from school today, so downstairs. So
Oh.
the screaming wouldn't affect y'all if there was any.
I got my headphones. I'm good. They're noise
What was this
canceling.
out of? It was one through.
1 through 5.
Okay, cool. I'm
Just
like
five being
like a
it was
10. I'm
a
like, oh no, we didn't do well.
there's no wrong answer. So put whatever you want in the chat, whatever makes sense. I appreciate we got a couple fives in here. That's awesome. That's good information. Um, I'm just like I said, I'm personally curious. I've been doing this on my streams too, just to see what I can do better. So seeing fives is good. I like it.
And speaking of five, I will see you, or I will see you guys in 5 minutes in the free live stream of our Discord. One of our many free live streams that we do in the Discord is going to be starting in 5 minutes post this, this webinar ending. We'll be talking about today. We'll be talking about Perplexity Computers. This is a
Mm,
new AI tool that came out, and how it might affect the markets. How some people are saying it's taking over the Bloomberg terminals and all that kind of good stuff. So I hope to see you
really
there. Yeah, it's somebody apparently built
interesting.
something
Bold
that's
claim.
close to the Bloomberg terminals. What they're saying using
That is
this,
a
which
that is a
is like
bold claim.
hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So we'll be breaking that down in
Hmm.
this stream.
Yeah, I'd love to see the solution for data access,
Yeah.
but separate topic. Carmen said, I have to try the hotkeys so I learn. What is your Discord name, if you don't mind? Or just reach out to me, just tag me in a chat channel in the Discord so I can work with you on that, because that's what we're here for. So I would love to help you out in the Discord. Just shoot me a message. We do have to wrap this stream up though, so I appreciate everybody hanging out and spending time with us. Thank you for making the time, because I know this is kind of a beginner friendly thing that went a little bit complex, but learning your landscape is the most important part of being able to use it. So thank you, Duck. I appreciate you being here as well. Thank you, Nikki, for hosting and for letting us see sunlight for our once a week our
So you're gonna
hour of
play us out? Is
exercise.
it gonna be music or something?
I don't know. We have to make our own. I got I got a chip clip. Can I use that? Is that an instrument?
That's your cue,
It
Nikki.
chirps.
When Spookies brings out the instruments.
That's it. I'm gonna stop